Welcome to another episode of the Zebra Influencer Series. In the case we have not had the pleasure of meeting, I am Scott Reyes, the Senior ISV Manager from Manufacturing, Transportation, and Logistics. I have the distinct honor of working with software companies, alliance partners, and organizations that focus in on innovating to resolve operational challenges for our customers. In my function, I get to help ISVs navigate our Zebra ecosystem. Here at Zebra, we're so committed to our customers. We take pride in looking into the future and not only anticipating the needs of our customers, but we work with our partners side by side to help resolve those needs and work alongside our valued customers to bring these new solutions to market. Our special guest today is Damian Peterson, who is the Senior Vice President of Havensight Consulting, and he brings over 9 years of experience in the SAP consultation world. Damian, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here today.
Hey, Damian, so let's jump right into the conversation. Can you tell us a little bit more about Havensight?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So Havensight's a niche consulting and implementation firm focusing on mobility for blue-collar workers. We help companies realize the greatest value from their ERP by deploying an elegant, mobile end-user experience to maximize adoption. And so some of the examples of our work are field mobility for maintenance tracking, mobility for inventory tracking, mobility for field scheduling. And the approach we take is leveraging SAP native products and SAP native offerings to provide value.
Excellent, Damian. So can you explain to us how Havensight helps with maximizing the ROI from an SAP investment?
Yeah. So the way to maximize ROI in your SAP investment is to solve for how do you get clean, accurate data collected at the point of performance. And it's all about making your ERP more powerful. So ensuring the solution actually gets deployed and adopted so you can get the ROI. So the pitfalls we most often see are the data never gets into SAP, the data is entered into SAP at a later time, the data is inaccurate, or it's in a spreadsheet someplace else, not in SAP. So how do we get clean, accurate data collected at the point of performance? What I really like about our teams is they're really good at quickly getting to know your business, right? Your business drivers, business process flows, and then defining an optimal mobile process flow to fit your business. And then to ensure adoption, we focus on the user experience. Because if we create an elegant user experience, those users are going to find this new process to be faster, easier, and useful. Here's an example I'd like to share with customers transitioning to SAP Asset Manager. In most cases, organizations actually see an increase in the number of work orders per year because end users are submitting better data, leading to better communication, resulting in improved maintenance activities. Essentially, if the users are using the system, then you're going to get the ROI. So we get really focused on what's the business drivers, what's the optimal process flow, and then aligning an elegant user experience to ensure the solution gets adopted.
Interesting. So from an EAM perspective, maybe you can dive into what are some of the drivers for adoption of your SAP implementation?
Yeah. So we've seen a number of projects. You buy the technology, you deploy the technology, and then the technology sits on the shelf for one of two reasons. It didn't work as advertised, or it worked as advertised, but it didn't provide the business value. So let me give you a common example with inventory management, right? So a technician hands a storeroom worker their work order with all the parts needed to do their particular job. That storeroom worker walks around the shop gathering items required. And as they're doing so, they're going to write down the quantity, maybe the serial number or the batch number for the parts they're picking. And they're just jotting that down on a piece of paper. And when they collect all the items, they'll go back to the window and hand those parts to the technician. Somebody now has to enter the data of the inventory that's been removed into the SAP system. In most cases, what we see is the storeroom worker collects a pile of pick sheets, and they'll take that pile to a clerk who's then tasked to enter the data into SAP. Now, if it's done relatively quick, then you've got a pretty good idea of what's in inventory if you're managing part and inventory levels. What normally happens though is that pile might sit for a day, 2 days, or maybe a week. And now there may be some critical parts, Scott, that are needed for an emergency work order, and they aren't on the shelf. So let's relook at this from a mobile perspective, right? After you've deployed mobile, what does that process or experience look like? In this case, that storeroom worker scans a barcode at the item and bin level and inputs a quantity as required. Items are collected, right? And because the items are now scanned, the clerk who enters the data into SAP, they're not going to track down that store worker to validate any poor handwriting. There's no errors in data entry from fat thumbs. There's no need to wait a day, 2 days, a week for that clerk to enter the data into SAP. There's no pick sheets now, right? So you're reducing paper. In fact, that clerk who's entering the data into SAP has now been redeployed elsewhere in your business. At a business level, your MRO inventory decreases as your need for safety stock is reduced. And annual inventory counting and other process, right? Time is reduced, in this case, by 80 to 90%. In fact, some companies may decide to do inventory counts more than once per year, or eliminate annual inventory counts and transition to cycle counting. So from our point of view, right, these drivers for adoption is really around understanding that business, design and building an optimal mobile-enabled process, and then creating an elegant user experience. Scott, since we're here talking today, I thought I would cover another idea that often gets overlooked, but it is part of the user experience and certainly relevant here today. And that part is about device selection. Everybody's initial inclination is to go buy a consumer grade device, right? All executives know what a smartphone is. So oftentimes we partner with customers to help them understand the true total cost of ownership. To determine when an industrial device like Zebra is optimal. It'll have better uptime. These devices don't break. These devices don't have to be replaced often. You won't have interruption, right? Zebra devices are designed from the ground up to include a barcode scanner, which ensure fast, accurate scanning of barcodes. And we work with Zebra to ensure that the SAP applications we're delivering are tested, certified, and approved to work seamlessly for the deployment. We actually worked with a customer really recently. That's a great story to tell here, right? So the customer is in the state of California. First-hand example of consumer devices not working for them. They were trying to use these smart pads out in the field, and it was so hot in some of the desert areas that these devices just quit working. And really the only way to overcome that was to use a purpose-built device for these applications, and Zebra was a perfect fit for them. It didn't matter what the temperature was, they just kept running. And in this case, right, it really helped them realize the ROI, the value, and giving them the data they need to run their business.
That's a great story on how purpose-built devices could fit into a customer's existing operation, right? So Damien, help me understand, or help the audience understand, how is Havensight helping reduce deployment time and cost in one of these deployments that you had with a customer, maybe even the one in Arizona?
There's no getting around it. It's experience, proven methodology and approach, years and years of bringing together our lessons learned and building templates, accelerators, and enablers that really speed up projects, and then specific industry expertise. What's really always impressed me with our team, and how I think it really adds value in terms of reducing that deployment time and realizing the value. What's really impressed me about our team is how their ability is to go into a brand new account and how quickly they can identify the key issues that really need to be addressed. Every project has a certain challenge or challenges, and solving that challenge determines whether you're successful or not, whether the solution gets fully adopted. Everyone wants to think that this is an out-of-box deployment, right? We're just moving material. The fact is every deployment has some uniqueness. And our teams are really good at quickly identifying where those challenges are and spending time focused on those to ensure we successfully deploy.
Excellent. So in those deployments, you must be speaking with a number of different stakeholders within the customer. Can you help me understand who within the customer you guys work with to make sure that those projects are successful?
Yeah, good question. And what we found is there's not necessarily a single person we work with in a customer site that makes a project successful. It's been our experience that creating a bridge between IT and the business resources is really the key to success for one of our projects. Candidly, it's when they realize they both need each other that things really start to take off. IT has control over security, integrations to existing systems, access to the systems, and the business has the ability to define how they want the system to work. And so when these two groups join together, they achieve more, they're more successful than if they were to work separately.
Excellent. So tell us more about some of the value that you bring to these mobile projects for SAP.
Our approach to market is we fundamentally believe in helping clients leverage their investment in SAP. We don't go to market by trying to replicate any SAP functionality or competing with SAP capability. And Scott, with that said, there's clearly going to be gaps in the SAP offering. And we're really good at, since we have such a strong relationship with SAP, we know where they're at. We know where they are not. And with the roadmap, we know where they're going. So we can we can we can make decisions intelligently on where to invest in accelerators, enablers, and even package solutions to cover off the white space and not replicate what SAP is doing. One example of that is our mobile UI5 inventory transaction solution using SAP native technology. And that's a tool which is an inventory management application that helps organizations get control of their MRO or finished goods inventory. Another example is our founder recently started this company, Murata, that provides an enterprise-wide digital form solution to enable any form across the enterprise. SAP does not have any enterprise-wide forms capability. And so with Murata, now we can collect all this data at the edge. In addition to work order data with Asset Manager, we can collect all this data and feed it into SAP and make your SAP ERP system more powerful.
Oh, that's awesome. Damien, maybe you can dive in a little bit more on the partnership that you guys have with SAP. Can you explain more how tightly aligned you guys are with them?
Yeah. So a lot of depth and experience here, right? So SAP has an influence committee, and Havensight is on that influence committee for the mobile platform and the mobile products, as well as their predictive analytics insights product. And so we're providing feedback from a customer's point of view based on our customer learnings. As a trusted advisor at SAP, they share advanced notice roadmap items that we can present to customers before the product release notifications are released to the general public. Looking back at our history, our founder started a company, Cyclo, that was ultimately sold to SAP in 2012. And most of our team here at Havensight worked at SAP for a couple of years. And all the old Cyclo people, all our old team members at Cyclo, they're still on the platform and product teams at SAP, even here today, 10 years after the acquisition. So you can understand why we're on these influence committees and have advanced notice to the roadmap. And this next comment I think is really important. When things go sideways on a project, if they do, right, we have the ability to go direct to the product teams to get direct action for our customers. And you're just not going to find that kind of connection between a vendor and a manufacturer that we have. Even the big consulting firms don't have that kind of relationship. So if you're a customer that is using or considering using SAP Asset Manager or Work Manager, that is the product we sold to SAP in 2012.
Wow, so you guys have really deep knowledge and relationships with SAP. That's amazing. Which kind of begs the question of like, what is your strategy for continued expansion with SAP in the sector?
Yeah, great question. We find ourselves to be very customer focused. Customers share their problems in the areas they work, in the enterprise asset management space, and we generally look to solve problems that have not been solved. So where do we look to expand our capabilities? Based on our industry experience, based on the current state of products and the products we know are coming on the roadmap, and the products that aren't coming, right? Where where can we build, for example, with SAP UI5 tools? Well, Scott, we're true connoisseurs of ourselves and our industry, right? We're looking to solve these customer problems as an extension to the products we already deploy, and we've already built we've already have pre-built services for.
Awesome. Maybe we can touch upon some of the verticals that you guys are looking to expand to. I mean, enterprise asset management, and maybe we can dive into maybe what are those sub verticals or overall verticals that you guys are looking to expand in?
Yeah. So we work pretty heavily with utilities, oil and gas, discrete manufacturing, process manufacturing, and life sciences. Those are our main industries today. In terms of where we're expanding or some of the sub verticals that we're getting into, certainly, we're expanding into chemicals where they have very similar regulatory requirements as utilities, oil and gas, and life sciences. We're expanding into mining and other areas of utilities. A lot of water and power and lights. We've got a lot of new customers there. Public sector, we've done some work with large school systems. We've had some very successful projects for some large state agencies. And an area that I think we should be expanding into is defense, because that's manufacturing, right? And we're starting to see an activity level there. So I was just thinking about this, right? A common theme, I think, across all these industries is, they're all mature, highly regulated businesses, excuse me.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it makes sense that you guys would also be looking at any organization that has distribution associated to, I mean, to your point, highly regulated organizations. And what about distribution? Is that on your roadmap?
I think that any organization that is looking to improve the way that they handle preventative or corrective maintenance of their assets, they're looking to realize a greater process to improve efficiency and effectiveness of those processes, to reduce the amount of steps or increase the value of their SAP ERP system by collecting the data at a point of performance. I think any of those businesses, candidly, would be we're interested in talking to. So distribution, certainly, I think as fits that category, as well as some other industries like transportation and warehouse management as well.
Excellent. And can you expand a little bit more on what trends you're seeing in the verticals that Havensight supporting today?
That's a good question. What trends are we seeing in supply chain and asset management? Everybody had digital transformation in the back of their minds before COVID. And we believe COVID 100% accelerated digital transformation. Look at what's going on in the supply chain space today. Scott, even you probably can feel this, right? If you look at the constraints in the supply chain, there's companies that have not made any investment in automating their supply chain. Picture this, right? If you've not automated your inventory tracking, for instance, what happens? Your safety stock goes up, right? Because it's not accurate. So now you're living in a world where there are supply chain constraints everywhere, microchip shortages, production is vulnerable to disruption, and there's untimely shortages of inputs from other businesses. And now it's all about how do you manage the supply chain and get it really lean? Because you're forced to make it lean, because there's just not inventory to increase safety stock. And so the companies that truly had systems in place to track inventory, we're in a better position to manage this disruption in the supply chain. And the companies that didn't, it's a problem. In fact, it's an emergency for them. And we're definitely seeing it in utilities, for example, where we're seeing some really big transformation projects. Another trend is the transformation of the workforce, which is happening in conjunction with COVID. We have an aging workforce with all this tribal knowledge that people have had for 20, 30, 40 years, right? They're leaving the workforce. And in order to capture that information, you have to digitize that data that's being collected, capture the business processes that they're following, which drives your business the way it's working today. But it's working today through tribal knowledge. And so you need to automate that process so that people coming in from the new generation can just jump in and use these digital tools and keep your business moving. Oh, and by the way, COVID accelerated people leaving. So right now in the current economy, there are 2 jobs for every unemployed resource. There just aren't enough people to do the work.
Wow.
So organizations are seeing digital transformation, deploying mobile as a way to do work more effectively and efficiently so that you can get the same amount done with less people. And another related workforce trend, by the way, is you're seeing the new generation coming in. They're not too excited about working with paper, pencil, and a clipboard. This new generation has an expectation that a company they're going to work for is in the digital world. And they'll choose a company based on technology they get to use to do their job. New kids are born with a smartphone in their hand. And from what we see and from what the research reports, the job expectations around technology is totally different today. Newer generations are less comfortable working for a company that does not use technology. And so these trends kind of all come together right now, have really pushed in our space, right? In supply chain and asset management in particular. This digital transformation is accelerated by COVID, combined with an aging population that's exiting the workforce. And the expectations of a newer workforce generation is to use digital tools. And these trends all support the broader business case customers are using to ensure project fulfillment. These trends are ubiquitous.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Damien, maybe on the back of that, can you tell us what recent developments or development Havensight has done with software or with an application to help bring forward some of those trends or enable some of the new resources that are coming on board for your customers?
You know, this is an interesting new expansion story, a new development. Thanks for bringing this up, right? And this is a very recent one, and definitely relevant here, right? So there's been a push in the industries we work in for asset tracking, right? Because these assets, these purpose-built mobile devices are quite expensive. And if they're lost, it can create hiccups in the supply chain, right? Hiccups in the manufacturing process, testing and inspection processes. So, in conjunction with a large US consumer products company, we're building an asset tracking application developed on the mobile SAP UI5 framework, and we're leveraging Zebra RFID technology and tags. So this will be a packaged solution available to our customers. So you can always find your mobile devices should they get lost or misplaced. And we're actually super excited about this opportunity. And we're happy to share with our customers who see value in tracking their devices.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an amazing story where we're connecting Zebra and Havensight. So towards the end of this, now we're towards the end of the conversation. Damien, I just want to know if there's any last thoughts you want to leave with the audience around Havensight and what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks for that opening there, Scott. Speaking to SAP customers who have decided or are deciding upon the move to mobility for inventory or asset management for their field workers, certainly we welcome the opportunity to share our point of view on delivering the product, on how to minimize risk and realize adoption. As particularly companies in manufacturing, public sector, any regulated industry, anybody looking to increase efficiency and effectiveness of their capabilities with their field workers. We've delivered thousands of projects. We help companies realize the greatest value from their ERP by deploying an elegant mobile end user experience to maximize value. And Scott, thanks for listening in today. I hope you found this helpful, and cheers, make it a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Damien. Damien, on behalf of Zebra Technologies, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us in the audience. As mentioned, We invite our audience to connect with our channel partners. We invite our audience to connect with Damien and his team at Havensight. If you have any SAP needs or you have any challenges that you like to talk through with an SAP consultant, please reach out to Damien and his team. Thank you for your time and interest. And remember, Zebra and our partner and Alliance community are committed to your success.